Hi folks, I'm Ryan Lichten and this is the Collector's Room. Today I'm going to be showing you some very special items from my personal collection. I've been collecting all sorts of items from all around the world for a couple years now, and I know a little something or two about collecting things. So I have a nice array of different items here I'd like to share with you. Some more sentimental than historically valuable, but it's all in good fun here in the collector's room. So why don't we start light? Let's see, what do I have here? Oh, perfect. So this here is actually, you 90s babies will remember this. This is a VHS clamshell copy of the Power Rangers movie, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie to be more exact. Now, I know what you're saying. I've been to a Blockbuster, I've seen that, what makes that particular VHS so special? Well, I can tell you that if you can look here, you will see an autograph that says, "To Ryan, stay cool, Jason David Frank." That is Master Jason David Frank, the White Power Ranger, as you would know him from the film here. We all know that in the lineage of Power Rangers, he started as the evil Green Ranger, becoming the White Ranger to do good later on. Now Jason Frank is a MMA fighter who recently found himself in some hot water in the media because him and other famed martial artist Jean-Claude Van Damme had a beef, and actually at a convention there was almost a fight, but there wasn't. So this one's more of a sentimental collector's piece as opposed to something that's actually more historical value. You know, you'll see that in collecting. There's different tiers of items. So for instance, moving on, I have here an actual banknote, a piece of currency from Uganda. This was printed under Idi Amin's reign. Now, if you don't know who Idi Amin was, he was the bloodthirsty dictator, head of state of Uganda throughout the majority of the 1970s. 1971 through 77, I believe, is kind of the peak of his reign. And now he was known for being a cannibal. He would eat human beings. He would also keep the heads of his enemies in his fridge. He had slaves. He was just overall a very bad guy. You can flip around here. You see this particular bill was worth 5 shillings. In Uganda it would be a shilingi tano. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And you can see that there is actually a photo of Idi Amin's likeness on the front here. And it's kind of interesting, considering, you know, in America we put our heroes on the money, but in Uganda during that time he stopped all production of the money to reprint it with his own image on it. Can you imagine if they did that over here, right? We'd have new money every 4 years. So that's a little bit more of a darker piece. Like I said, not everything is so sentimental. Some of it is a little more of a historical value. For instance, these kind of in the same time frame. We're talking the 1970s now. These are original Vietnam death cards. Now, I'm sure there's a more proper name for them, but they were known by the soldiers as death cards. And where it started was during the Vietnam War, they would place, the American GIs would place cards, usually the Ace of Spades card, on a body of someone who they just killed. And so then they started printing cards just for that purpose. And you'll see this one is actually printed in English, but this was put out by the Vietnamese, and it says, "Next time you die, GI." They would leave these as warning signs for the next soldiers that came through. Whereas this one has a couple different texts on it. You'll see on the top here it's in Vietnamese. I'm not going to butcher that for you, but what it translates to is, "I saw you, but I let you live. The next time you will die." That obviously would be left nailed to a tree, or perhaps left on the uniform of a fallen enemy soldier. And it's at its base just kind of a token of psychological warfare. The Bicycle Card Company actually began printing decks of only the Ace of Spades card to give to the soldiers. Unfortunately, the only way that they could track their progress during that war was through body count. Kind of an unfortunate page in history, but really, if you think about it, all wars are kind of bad. So now let's see, moving on, let's lighten it up a little bit, huh? I have here an original Frisbee from the Woodstock 99 Music Festival. Now, the Woodstock 99 Music Festival happened in 1999 in Rome, New York, It notoriously ended in flames, rioting due to misplanning and mismanagement of the festival itself. Now, this frisbee was actually stolen. On the first night of the festival, a big rig containing crates of these promotional frisbees were broken into, and the crowd members began throwing them up into the air by the thousands. So someone managed to snag one of these, and I was able to snag it from them. So kind of an interesting piece of history. Just kidding. All right, so let's see what else we got going on here now. Well, you know, we've been talking a lot about the 70s and the 90s. Let's move on a little bit. We're gonna jump to the year 2003, kind of a dead zone for pop culture. At least if you ask most people. I was there though, and let me tell you, it was a hoot. We have here a copy on DVD of Bum Fights 2. Now, Bum Fights 2 is the sequel to Bum Fights, which was a series put out by a company called In Decline. It was very controversial. Basically, just a team of guerrilla filmmakers would go out and pay homeless people to fight each other, crash into things in shopping carts, break stuff in stores, sometimes disrupt church services, whatever they thought was funny at the time. We know better now, but this is an interesting piece of the dark side of pop culture. Now, it's also worth noting that the founder of In Decline, who was famous for going on the Dr. Phil show, dressed as Dr. Phil, who was then kicked off, he's actually serving prison time now for trying to smuggle medical specimens from a museum in Thailand into the United States. Big no-no. So he's serving, I believe it's over 10 years for not only stealing medical specimens from a museum, but also trying to smuggle them into the States. All right, coming through here. Oh, this is kind of an interesting one from 1987. Now, this is a nail file. I know what you're thinking, nail file, big deal. How could that possibly be important? Well, this is actually a promotional item from Bud Dwyer. Bud Dwyer was the state treasurer of Pennsylvania. I almost wanted to say Philadelphia, but so from Pennsylvania, and he would use, you know, nail files, clippers, all kinds of hair combs, all kinds of things that he thought people could use for his promotion, because he wanted to give people something, in his words, something that they'll use. People use nail files. He later came under fire basically for a scandal in which district lines were being redrawn to benefit taxes for different, you know, business owners and stuff that had their hands in the cookie jar of the state. He was not involved in that, but the blame was placed on him, and on live television in 1987 he committed suicide by shooting himself in the mouth. It's a world famous story, very unfortunate, but a unique piece of history nonetheless. Moving on now, let's see here. We're gonna break it up a little bit. We'll lighten it up. This is a very cool piece. I don't know if you guys can see it as well. The sharp teeth there. This is, yes, a piranha. Piranhas are noted for being, you know, carnivorous beasts. They travel in packs, swarms, if you will, almost like bees of the sea. They're actually known as the bees of the sea. That's not true. And they have sharp teeth right here that you can see. They're very sharp. And what they do is basically when they smell blood in the water, they swarm, and like a blender, they just, almost like a cartoon, a tornado just going around the target until it's just bones. And my grandmother actually picked this up for me when she went to Venezuela. She decided to bring me and my brother one of these piranhas home, and it's been with me ever since. And I just think it's kind of a cool piece, and you know, for being such a mean guy, they are pretty tiny, huh? Almost cute, one could say. But I'm not gonna go that far on this show. All right, here, what else do we have in the collector's room today? Oh, now this is interesting. This is a promotional keychain from Truvada. Now, Truvada is the pharmaceutical name, the company name that releases the pill, more commonly known, I guess the street name for it would be PrEP. Now, PrEP is a HIV prevention medication. It doesn't cure, but it does prevent. So a lot of people that take PrEP do so in an effort to prevent themselves from catching HIV/AIDS. Along with using, you know, safe sex practices. Now, I thought it was interesting that this company would make a moped keychain to promote their HIV medication. I'm not sure what the connection is. I guess Again, I don't know, but this is just one of those things that makes collecting so interesting, because it's really not about the items itself. It's about the journey you take to retrieve these items. And that's why I've loved collecting so much, and why I've been doing it for the couple years that I've been doing it, is it is just fascinating stuff. So again, a Truvada moped keychain here. Now, I know that these items seem maybe a little mismatched, maybe a little, why does he have this and that? Well, once you start, you can't stop. And this is only the tip of the iceberg, folks. I mean, I have hundreds and hundreds of items, everything ranging from, yes, Woodstock 99 Frisbees to piranhas, right? But when people ask me, I'm a young collector, I'm just getting into this, what advice do you have for me? Well, my advice would be, get a job and save up your money, because this stuff costs money, folks. You're not gonna just find Idi Amin's money on the street, you know? And you're not just gonna wake up one day and have Bum Fights 2 on the shelf. You have to work for this kind of stuff, but that is really what pays it all off here. So, you know, I mean, with that really being said, it might be, I'm getting a little emotional here, actually, when I think about it, because when you have items like this all put in one place on the table, it becomes, it's like having the world in your hands. I'm walking through history here. 99, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, present day. And what collecting really does is it makes a timeline, and we can't go back in time. We can't build a time machine. If we could, I wouldn't be here right now. I would be riding a dinosaur or killing baby Hitler, for instance, maybe. But instead, what I've done is I've created a time machine, these stepping stones of items through the past. You see what I mean? A pathway to the past. And that's kind of what I hoped to do here on the Collector's Room, is kind of walk with you through the past with me. So I think today, folks, it's going to do it for me, Ryan Lichten, here in the Collector's Room. Thanks for coming along.